Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to write some code that will record videos in Expo React Native apps. So first off, you're going to want to install Expo-camera, expo-media-library, expo-sharing and expo-av. I'm importing useEffect, useState and useRef from React. useEffect is basically so that I can request permissions, use status so I can handle different state around permissions and also whether a video has been taken, and useRef will be a reference to the camera which I can then use to call and start recording. So first off, I'm just going to have state, so I'm going to have a state for whether there's camera permission available. I'm just going to set that to the default of undefined to start with, and I'm going to do the same for the microphone. So you have to request the microphone and camera access separately. If they approve camera access but not microphone access, then you can still record a video. It'll just be muted, which is fine. So I'm going to add a check whether so once I request those, I'm going to add a check whether we have camera permission, because I think that's crucial. And if we do, I'll allow them to continue, but you might want to also make sure that they've got microphone permissions if you're wanting to make sure that they can record audio. But yeah, that's up to you. So inside useEffect, I've got this asynchronous function, which is basically going to go and request for the permissions they require. So the first permissions I require, like I said, are from the camera Expo-camera package. So I'm going to need to import camera from Expo-camera. So once I've got that, I can request the permission. So I'm going to just request the camera permission. And then I'm going to do the exact same, but for microphone. So for microphone permissions, I'll just give that a different name, microphone permissions. And I'll once again just go camera.request microphone permissions. So if the user will get two pop-ups. If they approve the camera one, then they'll have camera permission granted. If they approve the microphone one, they'll have microphone permission granted. If they approve both, they'll have both granted. And I'm going to show you how to check for that here. So you'll use the status and you'll check it's equal to granted. That basically means the user's approved access, and they'll be able to use the camera or the microphone or both. You can also actually pass the property when you're recording, whether you want to record in mute. For the purposes of today, I'm not going to bother doing that, but I might do a video at a later date exploring the different camera settings that are available to you. But yeah, not for today. So if there's no camera permission or microphone permission, that basically means it's still requesting those permissions. Otherwise, it'd be set to false. So if that's the case, then I'm just going to want to return a text that says requesting permissions. I don't think you'll actually ever see this because it's going to be underneath the alert dialogues, but anyway, it's there for some reason. It does show. And I also want to check whether there's not been camera permission granted, in which case I want to prompt the user to let them know that that's been denied. They can go and update that in the settings, and if you wanted to, you could give them more details on how to go about doing that. It would be a pretty useless video recording app if it didn't have access to the camera. So now I've got that, I can go and add my actual camera component in. That's the one that's going to allow me to see through the camera and also do my recording. It's the one I'm going to need the reference to, and I'm also going to put some buttons inside here. So I'm just going to create a view with some buttons inside it. This button's just going to be for recording the video, and if the video is recording, for stopping the recording. But you could put other things in there to control mute, or whether you've got the front or back camera, or what quality of video you want to record. I'm just going to manually set some of those options that suit me. Cool, and once I've got my button container, I'm just going to add a button to it. This button's just going to be, like I said, for recording. And on press, I'm going to want to call a function. I'm going to make it record video. And I'll go and define that in a second. So to record the video, we actually need a reference to the camera. So I'm going to need to go and add a camera reference in. And that imported the wrong button earlier just by default, so I'll just make sure I fix that up so that we don't have any issues later on. And now I'm going to want to create my camera reference. So I'm just creating a camera ref, and I'll use ref to define that. And I'll set that here. I'm also going to want another status for when I'm recording. So that will basically show me whether I want to have a different button showing that says stop recording or not. And also, if it is recording, like I said, I want to be able to stop it. And once I stop it, I want to be able to go ahead and show my video. So I'm going to give it a different title depending on whether it's recording or not. So if it is recording, I'll just want to stop the recording. And I'll also call a different function if it's recording, which will be just stop recording once again. And I'll need to go ahead and define that one too. So when I stop recording, I'm going to want to set is recording to be false. I'll also want to use the camera ref, and I'm going to want to stop recording. What they'll do is they'll actually trigger the callback on recording, and then from there you'll get the video object which you can do stuff with. So the function for recording is record async. And you're going to want to pass some options to that. So there are a few different options that you can have. Some of them are the quality of the video. There's a few different iOS or Android specific options like mirroring. You can also have max duration or max file size. So like on TikTok, you might have 60-second videos. And you can also specify whether you want it muted or not. So those options you actually just pass into record async. That returns a promise that you can then evaluate to get the video object once the recording's complete. And that recording will be complete basically when either stop recording is called or when the max duration is reached. So I'm going to create a new state object here. It's the actual video. And what I'm going to use that for is basically to determine whether I've got anything to display. Just going to want that to be undefined. So I'll just go fix that up. Sorry. Sometimes I type a bit without thinking, but that's all good. So I want to set, once that recording's complete, I want to set that video to be the recorded video. And that's basically all I'll need to do, as well as setting is recording to false, obviously, as now we've stopped recording. It may have not been triggered by stop recording. It may have been triggered by the max duration. That's why I just want to make sure by setting is recording to be false. I could probably actually remove it from stop recording to be a bit more succinct, but anyway. So if there's a video, then I'm going to want to display that video so that the user can go ahead and preview it, and they can also go ahead and save it using different actions I'm going to provide to them. So I'm going to import video from Expo-av. I've got a more detailed video on using Expo-av if you want to show videos inside your apps, and I'll link that in the description so you can check that out. And also all my source code's available on Github, and it's also linked in the description, so you can sort of look in your own time. I'm going to have a few components here, so I'm going to wrap them in a safe area view. The reason I'm using a safe area view is just so I'm not going outside those safe zones for iOS. Otherwise, because it's going to could take up quite a bit of space, it might push it onto some of the non-safe areas and it'll just look a bit funky. So this just makes it look a bit better with a little bit of ease without me having to manually specify different margins and borders and stuff like that might be not the same across different devices. So that's just why I'm using the safe area view. I'm just going to give it the same style as the camera because I want to take up the whole space. So I'm just using that styles.container. And inside that, I'm going to have my video component and a couple of buttons. So I'm going to want to just give this a style of video. So I'm going to go specify that, which is basically going to make it take up all the available space. So it's going to stretch the width right out, and it's also going to take up the remaining vertical space that the buttons don't already occupy. So the source is basically what you're going to get from that video object from when your record async is finished. And you're just basically going video.uri. It will have a local sort of temporary file there that you can use to display it. I'm going to choose to use native controls because I don't want to develop a specific video app. I just want to be able to display the videos. I'm just using a simple resize mode. You can experiment with different ones. I want to allow looping just so that the person can see their video play again and again. And then I'm going to give a few buttons. So the first button is going to be my sharing button. Basically, when you click on that, it'll open up that share dialog where you can send it to people on Messenger or whatever other apps you have that might be relevant to that file type. You can also save to files or do whatever else you want with it. You could airdrop it to your computer, for example. So I'm going to import Share Async from Expo-sharing. And I'm also going to import Media Library from Expo-media-library, and what I'm going to use that for is either saving to the camera roll or the Android gallery, just so that you can save it into like a typical place. You can actually save to albums as well, but I'm not going to show you that today, maybe another day. So I'm going to define a few functions just to make it kind of keep my code a bit tidier. I'm just going to do it inside this if statement just because it will look a bit more linked to this actual component here that I've got. So I've got a share video function that I'm going to want to call, and all that's going to do is call that share async with the video URI, and then when that's completed, I'm going to go ahead and discard of the video because I want to be able to go back and record a new video. So I can set the video to undefined, and then it won't display anymore, and we'll be able to record a new video. I'm also going to add a button that will discard the video in case you don't want to perform any actions with it. And finally, I'm going to want to enable my media library. So I'm going to need to get permissions for that. So I'm going to add a new state for whether I have media library permission. And once I've added that, I'm going to go ahead and actually request those permissions. So much the same as how I've requested camera and microphone permissions. I'm going to request media library permissions. So I'll await media library dot request permissions, and then once again I can just check whether the status is equal to granted, and if it has been granted, then it means I've got permissions to save to the Android gallery or the iOS camera roll. Cool, so I haven't used that yet. What I'm going to use that for is I'm going to check whether they have that media library permission, and if they do, then I'm going to allow them to save. Otherwise, I'm just going to show the other two buttons, which is share and discard. So if they have media library permission, we'll give them a new button with the title save. On press, we're going to just call a function called save video, which I'm going to define in a second. And if that's if there's no permissions, it's just not going to return a button. So I can define my save video function. And because I'm actually handling the promises here, I don't actually need it to be async. So I'm just fixing that up here for both share video and save video. And I'll go back and do, I think, record video a bit later. So I also did the same there. So basically I want to call media library.save to library async. Once again, I'm just passing that URL. and it will be all good and should save to the camera roll or the Android gallery. If it does that, then I'm going to want to go ahead and discard that video because I'm going to want to be able to record a new video. So I'll just set video to undefined. And then it'll go back to showing my camera as opposed to my video. So I'll just call that save video function when that button's pressed. So yeah, I'm just fixing this up and removing that async. It's not necessary as I've handled that promise. So this is just me showing you a demo. It requests the permissions that I require. So camera, microphone and media library. Then it shows up my camera with the option to record video, and when I click that it gives me a stop recording option. So I record for a bit and I click stop video, and it once gives me the opportunity to preview my video, which I can do here. You can hear the audio. Cool, and so once I've done with that, I can either choose to share or save or discard. Share I've just cut out because I don't want to show all the people I've been interacting with, and discard is pretty obvious. You just discard it and it doesn't do anything. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. If you have, please like and subscribe for more content.